Heya, Pixel Peeps! Are you tired of your drinks leaving watermarks on your furniture? We have something to fix that. Perler Bead coasters. After making our first Perler Bead creations back in 2015, my partner Matazz and I thought it'd be fun to have themed coasters. Our first set of coasters were a few Pokeballs, a Mega Man, a Link to the Past, and a couple of Mario-based ones. This picture's from December 2015, about 7 years ago. The Mega Man and the Pokeball coasters unfortunately broke during usage and during our 3 moves since then, but we still have the 2 Mario ones and the Link one. Let's take a look to see how they're holding up almost 7 years later. One thing to point out here. The translucent beads are great filler beads to accent your design. I never really use them for anything, but they might be useful here. I really like how their contrast really made the Stormtrooper design pop, for example. Once we started using these, we noticed that the condensation from our cold drinks were dripping down the glass faster than Jordan Peele's sweat onto Perler Bead coasters, which is what they're supposed to do. However, since the beads are made of plastic, they weren't doing a good job of absorbing the water. They would pool up into little droplets and go right through the holes. As far as coasters go, these weren't doing a great job of keeping the surface underneath the glass dry. We went back to the drawing board and brainstormed. Our first idea was to do a flat melt on future coasters in the hopes that the water wouldn't go through, but there was no guarantee that would have 0 gaps or holes once ironed. We thought some more and had a great idea. Add a cork backing. Before we get into the step-by-step process, I wanted to do a little showcase to give folks an opportunity to see how the coasters came out. You can also pause the video or take a screenshot if you want to make one yourself. Then we'll go over the materials, and after that we'll look at a couple of different approaches to making these. The first set that we made was our Naruto set. We have photo evidence of preparing a Sasuke one, but I'm not sure why we didn't make it. Here we have Sakura, Naruto, and Kakashi. Fun fact, the Raz in Big Boss Raz comes from my older handle. I used to go by Rasengan FTW, but asked Peeps to call me Raz for short. When I started streaming and making these YouTube videos, I decided to mash the nickname with one of my favorite video game characters, Big Boss. That's where Big Boss Raz comes from. The second set that we made was our Doctor Who set. At the time, we had just caught up to the latest New Who season. When Matazz and I started dating, the deal was I introduced her to anime and she introduced me to Doctor Who. What a fantastic trade. We even have the TARDIS here. The colors remind me of the Starry Night version with the TARDIS flying through the sky. We have, or maybe had, a puzzle of that image. I helped maybe 1% before rage quitting, while Matazz did the rest. This next set I made for Matazz is a Christmas gift. It's the BT21 characters from BTS. We have Van, Mang, Shuki, Tata, Koya, RJ, Chimmy, and Cookie. Fun story, Matazz and I met while teaching English in Korea, but we didn't get into K-pop until after moving back to the States. We were over there when Gangnam Style had just come out and was all the rage. For some of these, I decided I would rather change the size and try to keep the design balanced than have the outside filling feel off balance, which explains the variety in sizes for some of these. Let's take a look at the materials. To start, we're gonna need everything we need to make regular Perler Bead stuff, like the beads themselves, ironing paper, an iron, and some heavy books. For cork, we have 2 options. Get your hands on some sheets, tiles, or rolls of cork, or order pre-made cork coasters. If you decide not to get the pre-made coasters, you'll need some scissors and maybe a vacuum to clean up the mess afterwards. Before you order the pre-made coasters, check the measurements and make sure that you're happy with the size. Either way, we're also going to need a hot glue gun. Don't settle for the low-temp glue guns that might be used for fabric projects. I'll show you why later. Now, let's take a look at how to iron your Perler Beads to make them into coasters. Let's take a look at our first creations. Each of these has a light melt on each side. As these were the first ones that were made, I was scared of what would happen if I over-melted them. Still, I think I'd try to do a heavier melt on the backs and the fronts of each. You can tell the most with the first one that Matazz and I made together, the question mark block from Mario. As we mentioned earlier, we found that it wasn't enough just to do a flat melt on the back, but it certainly did help if you want to keep the front unironed. Ultimately, this is a stylistic choice. Do you want your final product to have an unironed look? Or do you want your final product to have a flat melt look? No matter what you want to do, I have one method for you to check out. As we talked about during the flat melt video, when you iron your Perler Beads, the heat needs to escape somewhere. That's why we poke holes in the tape when we use the tape method. If the heat doesn't have a place to escape, it might explode your beads. To avoid that, here's what I suggest. Get as close to a flat melt completely on one side and either lightly iron the front or don't iron it at all. If you want the front to keep an unironed look, give the back a flat melt. If you want the front to have a flat melt look, flat melt that side. Keep in mind you need to plan ahead if you're not using a symmetrical design like this one, and if you're using the tape method, tape the side you do not want ironed. Once your design cools under a flattened surface for 5 to 10 minutes, make sure that each bead is melted to one another before you move on. If you don't have pre-made cork coasters ready, here's a way to measure how you want to cut your cork. As you can see in this video where we went live to make a community member a creation, we used a pen to measure the cork. Depending on you, you might want the cork to be completely covered by your beads, or you might want the cork to frame your beads. Either way is totally fine. It's just up to your taste. Once you're satisfied, get your hot glue gun ready. Have some paper towels nearby to clean up any extra dripping. You have to wait anywhere between 2 to 5 minutes for your particular glue gun to heat up to operating temperature. For this part, you're gonna have to do this quickly. The hot glue gun will cool and bond if you're not fast enough, and then you end up with a cork coaster that looks like this: dried glue and no beads on it. This is also why I don't recommend using a low temp glue gun. It doesn't stay hot long enough for you to place your beads down. I like to do a small square and make an X with the glue. Don't do it near the edges though, or you might have some excess glue pop out on the side. Once you're happy with the location of your beads on the coaster, throw those heavy books back on it for maybe a minute or two. After that, you should have your coaster. These are great for leaving around your place wherever you might bring a drink with you. If you make a set, they also make great gifts for birthdays and holidays. Thank you for coasting to this video, and we hope you coast on back for the next one. Until next time, peace out.